Oh, there we go.
Or can listen to start your own businesses. It's a
There.
class you can take.
All righty. So before we get started, I ask that everybody please mute yourselves. But we're going to make this since there's not a lot of folks here, this is going to be, no need to wait till the end for questions. If you have questions, feel free to put them up in the chat. Or to just, come off the mic and ask a question. Really what the purpose of this is, we want to make it, what it takes to start a business a little bit easier. So you understand the different steps that you're going to have to take. And then also talk a little bit about how you might get some financing. So we're going to start off talking a little bit about what Maryland Capital Enterprises does, a little bit about why you might want to start a small business, and then really go into the steps to start the small business, a little bit about business planning and cash flow planning, and then we'll finish up with talking about lending. So like I said, questions throughout are absolutely okay. And I will go ahead before we get started. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat just so that everybody has that. All righty, so let's see if we can get this started. So before we talk about Maryland Capital Enterprises, just a little bit about me. My name is Nick Rudolph. I'm the Baltimore Regional Director of Maryland Capital Enterprises. Donna Langley is our Baltimore Women's Business Center Coordinator. She usually does this presentation with me and most presentations with me. She had some family things to take care of, so you've just got me today. But when you do work with us one-on-one, you generally don't get just one of us. You get to work with both of us. We've been a team for over 20 years through multiple jobs, and we just love helping people start small businesses. I came from the Main Street world, from both Baltimore Main Streets and Main Street, Maryland. So I have experience working with small businesses in the most urban and most rural parts of Maryland. Just so you know, our technical assistance and counseling is available to everybody in the state, but our lending is only for the Eastern Shore, Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Anne Arundel County. But if you're not in those areas, we can connect you with lenders and even help you apply. So we started in 1998, just helping small businesses, giving them small loans, counseling, figuring out how to do business plans and things like that. And we eventually grew to become an SBA lender. In 2012, we moved over the bridge to the Western Shore and started servicing the Baltimore area. What most people want to talk to us most about is the loans, but really our bread and butter is our counseling and technical assistance. It's always free. We can do one-on-one, group classes, in person, online. And if we don't know something, we can often help find an expert that can, and often that person will be free as well. Our main website is marylandcapital.org. If you'd like to, really start some personal one-on-one counseling, just go there and fill out our client intake form. But we also have our Women's Business Center at Maryland Capital Enterprises, Women's Business Center at marylandcapitalenterprises.org, where you can get some more information about the services that we offer at the WBC, including getting your MBE and WBE certifications. But what everybody wants to talk about is the money. And when people think of an SBA lender, they kind of, are like, oh, I want an SBA loan, or I want a video lottery terminal loan. What we do is we have a lot of different certifications through different government agencies and money that we raise on our own. When you apply to a loan from us, if you are approved, we're going to figure out, based on where you are, both in the life of the business and where it actually is, the pot of money that's going to get you the lowest interest rate and the longest term. So you might end up with an SBA loan, you might end up with a state of Maryland loan, you might wind up with a loan from money that we got from Wells Fargo or PNC or M&T or one of those banks, but it will all be the same for you. And then of course, again, we do provide the free counseling and training and technical assistance, and that is completely separate from our lending. There is no expectation that you would stay on as a borrower. And I'm just there we go. So why start a business? So that's a good question. Why are you all interested in starting a business? It is a lot of work, but it comes with a lot of joy and a lot of pride. So reasons why people like to do that is number one, to increase their income, to express a special talent or interest. This is an opportunity for you to turn your hobby into either a side hustle to make a little bit of money or into a full-time job. Of course, folks want to be their own boss. They want to have flexible hours and they want to develop another career. Are there anybody here who wants to join in and say why you might want to be starting a business that might be different than these reasons? And just go ahead and unmute yourself if you'd like to. Oh, we've got a shy group. That's okay. So starting your own business can be exciting and rewarding, but it can also be a little bit stressful, and it can seem like a lot. But the truth of the matter is that if you thoroughly plan and build that foundation, if you're creative and you're willing to put the work in, you can easily be successful. I got a little bit of animation we didn't expect. I'm sorry about that. So this is the scary slide, right? So 30% of small businesses close within the first 2 years, 50% within the first 5, and 80% within the first 10. But it really isn't all that scary. It is tough to start a new business, but a lot of these businesses close for good reasons. People are serial entrepreneurs, so they want to start another new business. They've sort of gotten bored with what they're doing, and they're just going to go do something else. Also, they get bought up by bigger companies, and then they can go start their own business. So just because the business closes doesn't mean that the business failed. And that's really important to think about. There are a lot of different ways, both positive and negative, to get out of business. And so when you see these numbers, they're really not quite as scary as they look. So I'm not going to go one by one and read all of these questions for you, and you will get the copies of these, but 20 questions you want to ask yourself before starting a business. And the reason why you want to do this and look at these: why am I starting a business? Who is my customer? What services will I do? Because this is going to be what starts you on writing your business plan and understanding everything it's going to take to start your business, right? So you're going to want to be looking about, are you running it yourself? Are there going to be employees? Are you ready to have employees and to supervise people yourself? Are you going to be home-based, or are you going to have a brick and mortar location? These are things that you want to start. And of course, as a lender, how much money do you need to get started? You also want to think, how are you going to get that money? Are you going to get a loan from either a traditional bank or a CDFI like us? Do you have family or angel investors that are willing to put it in? Did you hit $50,000 on a scratch off and you're willing to invest in yourself? There's lots of different ways you can get money for this. Another thing that I think is really important, especially when you're thinking about applying for loans, because all underwriters are going to want to see this, think about your competition. Think about what they do well, and think about how you're going to survive in the market with them. You also want to start thinking about the legal structure of your business. Do you want an LLC, which is a little bit more complicated, but takes away some liability from you as a person? Or do you want to get just started as a sole proprietor or an S corp or something like that? You also really want to understand the taxes and fees of your state and local jurisdictions so that you stay in good standing. You're not eligible for really any loans or government assistance unless you are in good standing. And of course, you want to start thinking about, insurance, marketing, and all of those kind of things. So there are 10 steps that we have listed to start a business. They are not necessarily in a chronological order. Everybody's business is going to be a little bit different in the way they do that. But the number one step is what you guys are already doing, and that is getting business assistance and training. Being in Maryland, you live in one of the areas in the country that has the highest access to free small business assistance. And we are not competitors. We are all friends. So we are going to be happy if you talk to other service providers as well. You want to get as much information as you can so that you can distill it and figure out what works best for your business. Of course, you're going to want to write a business plan, and we're going to go into detail about what needs to be in that plan and what audiences are going to be looking at that plan. Again, you're going to want to understand what it takes to be an employer. Are you going to have 1099 contractors, or you're going to have W-9 employees? You're going to need to choose that business location. If you're brick and mortar, are you going to go to like a downtown or a Main Street area, or are you more of like in a warehouse and industrial area? Again, we talked about determining the legal structure of your business, and then also registering your business name. Are you going to have a larger LLC with a couple of DBAs? You might have a Chinese restaurant, a Korean restaurant, and a Mexican restaurant with different names, but all under the same umbrella. Again, you're going to want to register for state and local taxes, get all of your permits, and each individual jurisdiction is going to be different on what kind of licenses and permits you need. Then you're going to finance your business and develop the plan to get the word out. Because if you build it, they won't come unless you tell them that you're going to be there. So the first thing you really want to do is understand your market. That you want to really see that there is a place for you in the business marketplace for a couple of reasons. Number one, it reduces the risks. If you do this ahead of time and find out that maybe now isn't the right time to start the business, or this isn't the right place for that, you can then adjust your timeline or your location to make sure that there is room for you. So you also want to make sure that sometimes there's room in the market because there are a lot of other people who are just like you. So if there's a neighborhood that is famous for great pizza places and there's a spot for another one, you might be able to make that argument that people come there for pizza and they want to try different ones. But you really need to be able to make that argument. You want to start current and upcoming problems, and also things that are good coming down the pike in your industry. You might see that right now your industry isn't growing very much, but in 5 years it's expected to balloon. And you want to start your business now so that you can be successful sort of during the conservative times. And then once the market gets up, you'll be ready to get all those customers. Again, you want to identify sales opportunities, and you want to look at data and citations about your market for your business plan. You don't want to just say the trucking industry is growing in Maryland. You want to say, according to this publication, it is growing by this much, and that's going to help you get closer to a yes on a loan or an investor for your business. So the way you do that is really easy. You just do an internet search. You look for industry publications if your industry has those. Check out the government websites, chambers of commerce, even see if there are local trade organizations. And if they aren't local, check regional or nationally. If you know somebody who's already in the business, talk to them, see what they're doing, what they see as the future of the industry. And then you can distill that and put that into your business plan. And that helps convince the lenders that there's room for you and you're ready to take over that spot in the industry. So there are a few advantages and disadvantages to starting a small business. And we're going to go over a few of those. And then this is another point where we will stop and we'll have some questions. And then we can move forward into some more nuts and bolts stuff. So the pros: you're your own boss, but the con there at the bottom, all of your customers are your bosses. So it's looking a little bit different. You can't be fired, but your business could not be successful. Your income is determined by your own efforts. So the more you work, the more you put into your business, the better chance you have of getting money out of it. All of that work goes back to paying you as opposed to somebody else, and that's very enticing for starting a small business. It's doing what you love, sitting behind a desk and you're not loving your job and you're dreaming about whether it's baking cupcakes, cutting hair, government contracting, you're dreaming about it. This is your opportunity to do it. And of course, you're help building community by providing jobs either for your family or for people in your community. The cons: if you think starting a business is going to be easier than working somewhere else, it's not. You're going to be working long hours. You're betting on yourself. There is risk when you start a small business. You may go without income for a while from your business. So do you have another way of getting income? Can you keep your job? Do you have somebody who lives with you who can afford to pay the rent or mortgage payments? You may need additional education and training. A lot of that is free, but in certain industries, you need to get certifications that are going to cost money. You might not be able to take vacations for a while. And you might have trouble finding time for yourself. That work-life balance, especially at the beginning, is very difficult to maintain. And you're going to be working many, sometimes 80, 100-hour weeks, but it can be worth it in the future once that business is running smoothly. So does anybody else have any questions or any thoughts right now about some other pros and cons that they might have for starting a small business? And if you do, just go ahead and unmute yourself. All righty, we'll go ahead and get moving then.
This is Monica Vickers. I do have some questions, but I'm holding on to them.
Oh, sure. If it's with something we've already talked, feel free to ask right now while it's fresh in everybody's mind. Absolutely.
I'm just holding on to them for now.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because you may answer them better.
Gotcha. All right. So we'll hold off on that until the end then. All right, so the next one, the slide is there are certain business types that you can be eligible for additional resources. And this is when we're talking about grants. There are very few grants for people who have for-profit small businesses. But if you are in one of these types, the new green businesses, if you're a veteran-owned business, a young business, a woman-owned business, owned by somebody with disabilities or minority-owned business, there are certain things both in grants, loans, and then a ability to get government contracts for all of those businesses. Again, with a Native American-owned business. Another one that I think is really important is think about where you want to locate your business. If you locate in a Main Street district, in a business improvement district, there are often resources available to you that aren't in other places. Sometimes a municipality will pay for half of the signage for a Main Street business, and that can be $5,000 or $10,000 of money that you're not having to spend and not having to pay back. So you really want to, like, when you're figuring out your space, you want to see if there are resources that make it more financially viable for you to be in a place than a different place. You also want to think about parking and things like that as well. So what are the keys to success to starting your small business? So the first thing you need to figure out is, do you have the skills in your industry to do what you do and be successful? So going back to the cupcake example, you know, if you're opening up a bakery, that means you've got the confidence and the skills in your cooking skills and your baking skills. So is your experience professional, or is it amateur? Both are okay. If there are certain things that you don't have, how will you find that help? If you're a really good baker, but you don't understand business management and finance, you know, figure out what you already know and then take classes like these or more drill down classes to learn how to do that. Figure out, you know, how you are at problem solving and recognizing problems and working on that skill set, because putting out fires is something that business owners do all the time. So if you can recognize things before they're big, you can always, you can always, you know, stop them a little easier. And then think about getting a mentor. You know, this is especially important if it's an industry that you don't have a lot of experience in. There are many mentors, either through the Small Business Development Center or the SCORE program through the SBA, where you can have a one-on-one mentor who is working with you, who has experience in your field to develop the plans that you need to have to run a successful business. So there are a few checklist items that you really want to have when you're starting a small business, things that you want to understand before you start spending money and really investing in the business. Number one, you want to check your county and local zoning requirements. Are you going to be opening a business in a place where you're legally allowed to? Is it zoned for business or industrial or commercial or whatever it is in your area? You want to check licensing requirements. I know we've got somebody here with a daycare center. You know, different counties or different jurisdictions may have different rules or time frames on licenses. So you really want to understand that. You want to make sure that you have business insurance, and basically, you know, a relationship with a banker and a bookkeeper. This is also the time when you want to analyze your credit. As you are starting your business, your personal credit is what folks are going to be looking at, because you don't have that business credit yet. So if there are problems on your credit report, maybe you want to work on fixing them before you apply for a loan. Generally, things that folks don't want to see on a credit report are late payments, missed payments, and collections. Certain banks and certain lenders have minimum credit scores. Other ones like Maryland Capital do not. We're looking at sort of the whole story of the last 2 years. Also, people weigh things differently. If you're applying for a loan for Maryland Capital, we're looking at things like student loans and medical debt as way less important than, you know, credit card payments, car payments, mortgages, and things like that. And then the last one is bail. This is a sort of a new concept that I absolutely love. Every new business needs bail. And what that stands for is B, you need a banker. A, you need an accountant. I, you need an insurance person. And L, you need a legal advisor. That doesn't mean that you have to have all of these people on retainer, but you want to develop relationships with people in these industries so that when you do need them, you know, you can access them. Of course, banking you're going to need for sure. Insurance you're going to need for sure. But developing relationships with bankers and insurance agencies helps you get better pricing, better products for what you need. And especially with the banking, developing that relationship gets you a better chance of a yes on that loan. So that is a little bit about just sort of generally starting your own business. Next, I'm going to go into developing a business plan and why it's important and what needs to be in that business plan. So the first thing is that the business plan is a blueprint for your business. So not only is it something you're using to convince people to invest in your business, it's a document that you're going to be able to look at while you are running your business to sort of ground you and figure out what the next steps are. I come from the restaurant industry. We call that being in the weeds, where there's just so much you can't really think. You don't know what to do next. You pull out that business plan. It's got a timeline in there or something that is going to say, all right, my next step is this. And once you start checking things off the list, things start to become easier. One thing about a business plan is that it is not a static document. You want to consider your audience for your business plan. So if you're going to a traditional lender or even a CDFI, the folks that are looking at it are going to say, we would like to fund this business, but we want to see that we know you're going to be able to pay back that loan. That's the most important thing for them. So the fact that you're going to be hiring from the community and donating to schools and softball teams like that is great, but that's not what they're looking for. But if you're applying for a grant, then you might want to focus more on how you're a good community citizen than on how you're making money, because the grant makers are looking for more of that. So you really want to be able to have a document where you can move things around, you can emphasize different things, and understand that it's going to change based on the audience. So now we're going to go into the different sections of a business plan. Now, I'm going to break this down into 4 sections, and they're going to be in a certain order. There is no expectation that all business plans would match this. What we're really looking for is a way for you to tell a story and get all of this information in a plan that makes sense for you and you telling your story. So the first part is the executive summary. I will say when I start this off, this is the part that you probably want to write last, because you'll be pulling things from the other sections. But you want to start off with this one with a sentence that is letting the reader know why they are reading it. So my fake company is Nick Still Pickles. So I would say Nick Still Pickles is an LLC located in Baltimore City. We make wholesale pickles for restaurants and individual ones to sell at farmers markets. We've been around since 2015, and we are seeking a loan of $50,000 to expand. If that's your first sentence, the reader is going to know who you are, what you do, and what you're looking to get out of them, honestly. Then you want to use this to describe why you're passionate about the business, why you started the business, or why you want to start the business. And then a little bit about the marketing, what you're going to use the money for, and things like that. The second part is probably the most important part of your business plan, and that is the marketing plan. And that means, of course, how are you going to advertise your business? But it's so much more than that. You're going to want to talk about your pricing policy. Are you going to be high end? Are you going to be middle of the road? Are you going to be discount? Why are you going to do that? You want to talk about your target customer, and you really want to drill on that. Most businesses have the ability to serve everybody, but if you have a target customer, you might say African-American women 30 to 50 who make 100,000 plus a year. You can market your advertising to the folks who you think are going to use your business the most, and you'll get the most bang out of your buck for that. You're also going to want to talk about your competition again. I would recommend listing 3 competitors, again, listing what they do well and why you think that you will be able to exist in the marketplace with them. And you really want to be creative the way you think about competitors, because everybody has competitors. We have a loan with a comic book store, and the owner of that store in their business plan listed 2 local comic book stores as competition and Amazon.com. And our loan committee absolutely loved that, because a lot of people weren't thinking, you could just get your comic books at Amazon, and this is how I'm going to compete with something like that. And it gave them the confidence to go ahead and fund that loan. You also want to talk again about how there's room for you in the market and what your competitive edge is. If you came on early, we were sort of talking a little bit about special sauce. What is the special sauce that your business has that's going to separate it from other businesses that are doing similar things? For instance, we were talking with somebody who had a daycare center with an education aspect, and they're going to bring in dance and music and arts as a major component of what they're teaching the children. That is something that other folks in the area aren't doing that I think a lot of parents would be interested in. That is your special sauce. That's your competitive edge. The next section is the organization or operations program section. So when are you open? Are you a Monday through Friday business? Are you a 7-day-a-week business? Are you an internet-based business? Are you going to be doing the work yourself? Or are you going to be hiring people to do that? Are you going to be the manager? Or are you going to even have somebody else manage the place? Who are going to be the key employees? And when are you going to bring them on? It's often hard to bring on a full team at once if you're a startup, because there's not a lot of money for loans. It's hard to get $1 million to start a business. It's easier to get $30,000, $50,000 to start a business. You also want to talk in this one about contingency plans. What if you get sick and can't work for 3 weeks? How will your business survive? If somebody wants to buy your business, what would you do with that? And since we're still living in the COVID-19 world, you want to talk a little bit about your COVID plan. Will you require masks? If one of your employees gets COVID, what will you do? It doesn't need to be long, but folks just want to see that you're thinking about that. And then, of course, there's the financial plan. This is where you want to talk about your startup costs, your break even. You may want to put your cash flow projections in this part, or you may want to have it as a separate document. That's completely up to you. The other thing that you can do if you're using the business plan to apply for a loan is this is a situation where you can talk about certain credit problems that you may have on your credit report. Much worse than having dings on your credit report is telling us that you don't, and then we pull it up and we see surprises. Surprises are the thing that you least want to see. So we want to understand where you're at. So we just came out of a pandemic. There are a lot of reasons why people's credit scores fell during the pandemic. People were laid off, businesses closed. There was a higher divorce rate during the pandemic. All of those things can contribute to a lower credit score. And that's a very different borrower than somebody who, bought a bunch of flat screen TVs and didn't pay back their credit cards. And we're able to look at that. So if you're very open and honest about any issues you may have in your credit past, you're going to have a much better chance of getting a yes. So that is all on the business plan, and we're about to go into the cash flow projections. Before we do that, were there any questions on the business plan?
Yes, I do have. Well, I don't have any questions. It's just that, I was a little late. I was a little late getting here because I don't use this computer very much. And when I turned it on, it had to be updated with this, that, and the other before I could start. So apologies, first of all. But I kind of backed into my business, and I was selling, creating and selling jewelry and things like that. And one of the side effects of it was that if I was going to be selling it, I had to go ahead and get to pay sales tax and register to pay sales tax and all of that stuff. So it kind of became a business. Mm-hmm. Once you start doing that sort of thing, you're just like, well, I've got to pay sales tax. Then that means I've got to do this, and I have to do that, and then I have to do this too. So it became a business. And so now I'm trying to find out the things that I need to do to make sure that what I've done and what I've begun thrives.
Absolutely.
That's why I'm here, because I kind of backed into it. I worked for a nonprofit, and we did some bracelets and things, for the ladies so that they would have gifts and, as a craft and all of that stuff. And I had no idea I could even do all of that stuff. And then I ended up with a suitcase full of beads and all of this stuff left over because my husband and I had, went on and funded the project. And he says, so now what are you going to do? And I'm like, well, Why not?
Yeah,
And,
and that is a very common way that people sort of back into doing a business. I have a good friend who was handed a camera to shoot an event he had never photographed before. He did such a good job that he is now a professional photographer. You know, that has his own business. That happens, and we're here to
exactly.
help you with that as well.
And
We have
the issue with that is that I was born the same year the Small Business Association was.
uh-huh.
Okay, the administration was. So I'm in the autumn of my life, and I'm trying to do this, but I feel I'm not afraid. But having worked for tax agencies and so forth, I want to make sure that I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, because nothing messes up a business. I've seen it. I've been part of it. Other than worse than taxes and messing around with your taxes and not paying your taxes on time and not doing the things that you need to do for the government. And that's part of what my biggest concern is, making sure that I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do. And because I can handle the jewelry making and you know, being places where I need to be in order to try to make money and things like that, some of it anyway, but I'm concerned with making sure that I'm meeting all of my government and all of my government obligations.
And absolutely. So first of all, I want to stand up and give you a round of applause for even thinking about that. That is absolutely something that should be top of mind that a lot of people don't think about when they're starting their small business. And most people starting a small business are not experts in that at all. And that's why finding a good accountant is really important. Finding somebody who you can trust, because what they do is they know when those dates are, and they give you a warning, and they make sure that those things are being paid, so that you don't have to worry about that. And that's something, after this, fill out the intake form, we'll schedule some time and we can talk about that. Maybe even find some consultants who might be able to help you out with that.
That's one of my biggest concerns is while I'm busy trying to do all of this other stuff and thinking that those things are important, people need to understand that your taxes, paying your taxes and knowing when things are due, that's the scariest part for me. If there is a scary part, is making sure that, because I don't know what I need to do for a business. I don't have any employees and stuff like that, but I still have obligations as far as making sure that things are paid and filed on time. And that's where I need the most help.
Oh, absolutely. So yeah, definitely, contact us. We can help you out with all of that stuff absolutely for free. And it sounds like you're doing everything right and you're thinking about all the right things. So hopefully that puts you a little bit at ease there.
Thank you very much.
we have a chat question, which is there a recommended length for a business plan? Are there templates or resources we recommend? So the length of a business plan is going to depend on the business. Generally, for a new business, we've seen them sort of in between the 8 and 20 page range. I know it's a lot, but if you're doing, restaurants and stuff where you've got menus, it might go a little bit longer. But also the length of the business, how long it's been around. The requirements for a business plan, if you're a startup, up to 2 years for us, is that you have the full business plan. But if you've been around for more than 2 years and you've got taxes and profit and loss statements, then we can accept what we call a business synopsis, which is basically an executive summary with a section about what you're going to do with the money that you're asking for. And those can be 1 or 2 pages. If you're in a business with a lot of data and you're putting in a lot of charts, we've seen them up to 100 pages. We don't love it when they're that long because we really do go through them with a fine tooth comb, but sometimes your business requires that. But there really is no set length for what a business plan should be. There are great templates online and everywhere. I think we've got a really good one. It's basically an outline for a business plan, and it's full of questions that we've heard the decision makers ask. I'm going to put my information in the chat again, just so everybody has access to it. If you email me at nrudolph@marylandcapital.org, I will send you that business plan template, and you are free to share it widely. We want, we don't want anybody reinventing the wheel. So, so get it out there. Also, we have a cash flow projection template with the formulas already in it. So I'm happy to send that to everybody on this as well. So that's a nice little transition into the cash flow projections. So the first question is, what are they and why do we need them? And why are we not moving forward? There we go. So the cash flow projections really is you're looking forward into your business and you're saying, I think I'm going to be able to make this much money. I think this is what our expenses are going to be. If we're, in the right area, am I making a profit? But the reasons why we need them is, number one, it's going to be required for all SBA and really all loans, and they're going to want to see it broken down monthly. Again, it's a planning tool. So it shows the difference between, the gross and the net profit. It's just good governance for your business. And it also allows you to know when you can start paying yourself, which is highly important. There are a few things to keep in mind when you're looking at cash flow projections. Number one, these are projections. This is a living document and it's going to change over the life of the business. And not only will it not be 100% accurate, odds are every single cell on your cash flow projections is going to be different in real life. What you're looking is just sort of for a general, are you doing okay? You also want to be realistic and not too bullish about your expectations, even if you know you'll do better than your projections. An example I like to give for that is, we had a person who made handmade wedding invitations. They're absolutely beautiful, but she was a one-woman shop. She said, I charge $1,000 a wedding. There are 10,000 weddings a year in Maryland, so I'm going to make $10 million a year. Well, the truth is, not everybody has invitations. Not everybody has $1,000 to spend on invitations, and one person can't do that. Do all of that. So show us that you can make it on 5, 10, 12 a month. And if you do them all, that's just gravy and you're doing better. But if you can sort of, in a conservative world, still be making a profit, that's going to really help our loan committee get you closer to a yes. Another thing you want to think about are your income streams and your expenses. You want to make them sort of as detailed as possible, especially your income streams. So if you've got a restaurant, you want to think about dine-in, carry-out, food versus alcohol. Are you doing catering? Are you big enough that you're selling t-shirts? Separate all that out, because what you can do then is say, hey, I thought the alcohol program was going to be 25% of my business, but it's really only 10%. Do I want to focus on getting people to buy more drinks, or is the food just so popular we want to do some more on that side? It gives you data so that you can make those decisions about your business. It's also good to think about, are you a business that every month looks the same, or are you busier in the warm months or busier near the holidays? And you want your cash flows to show that. One thing that folks really often forget to put in is the loan as income and the loan payment as an expense. And again, are you paying yourself? The CDFI world, which is what we are, the nonprofit banking world, we are all about building communities. And part of building communities is the folks who are running the businesses have a nice way of life. So you need to not only have a roof over your head, food to eat, transportation, and clothes, but we want you to be making enough money so that you can go out and have fun and take a vacation and things like that. So we want to make sure that your quality of life is strong, and that you're not 100% all the time in that business. So this is just to have on the screen what the cash flow document looks like. The top part is going to be your cash on hand, then your different streams of income. Around line 22 is when you start your cash paid out. And as you see, there's a lot of things on the side of different expense streams, and you're able to change those if you want to. Certain places won't have rent, things like that. Underneath of that is a section that's sort of a more stable expenses. So your loan payments, if you're paying yourself, if you're having a reserve, and it's also a good place for you to put your startup costs. If you get a $50,000 loan to start your business and $25,000 is for build out, that's where you're going to put that $25,000. And that's using that is going to let you know when you start making a profit, or if you need to change things in order to make a profit. If you need to do cash flows for your business and this seems very daunting to you, just fill out that client intake form. We will do a one-on-one Zoom with you and do 2 years of cash flows with you and have a document we can just email to you that's ready to go to a lender or ready to go to part of your business plan. So you've done everything. You've put everything together. You've got your cash flows. You've got your business plan. And it's time to fund the business. So one thing that is important, you want to talk to your bank first. If you can get a bank loan, odds are you're going to get a little better interest rate. And also it is required that you be rejected for a traditional loan or another CDFI loan before we are able to lend to you. And really the reason for that is that we want to make sure that our funding is going to folks who are not able to get those bank loans. And so we want to sort of push you to do that. And then if you can't, then we're here for you. So we have two different loan products. They're both pretty similar except for size. So the first one is our small business loan. If your business is 2 years or younger, you're looking at $5,000 to $35,000. If you've been around for 3 or more years, you can borrow up to $150,000 and sometimes even more than that. I think we've done $200,000 before. The terms can be 1 to 10 years, depending on the size of the loan. So if you're up over 100, it's going to be 10 years. 50,000 would probably be 6 or 7 years. 35,000 would probably be 5 or 6 years. 5,000 would be 2 years. So it can go different, different lengths, but usually it's about the size of the loan. Our current interest rates are set at 6 to 12%, but I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've been working with MCE since 2015, and these loans tend to go out in the 7 to 9% range. And so I like to do assumptions at 8% when I'm doing cash flows. These loans do require collateral, and we want it to be as close to the loan amount as possible, but we can be very flexible with collateral. Of course, real estate is the best. We can use automobiles. Sometimes we've been able to use life insurance. We can use other people's property. So if your mom, dad, brother, sister, best friend believes in you and they're willing to put their house up, we can do that. So just because you don't think you have collateral doesn't mean that you really don't. And if you really don't, we may have some other resources for you as well. It is important to know that all of our loans are personally guaranteed, and anybody who owns 20% or more of the business is going to have to guarantee that loan. If you've got a large ownership structure where nobody owns 20%, we're going to want to see 2 or 3 people step up and personally guarantee the loan. All of the work we do for you getting that application together is free, whether or not you apply and whether or not you apply with somebody else. If we're helping you get an application for somewhere else, that is okay. But when you do apply, there is a fee. It's $100 for the application and then $25 per owner for the credit report. We do a TransUnion soft pull that does not impact your credit score at all. And you do get a full copy of your credit report. If it's a yes, then there are some closing costs. They vary on the size of the loan and a few other things, but generally if you get a $50,000 loan, you'll be walking out of closing with about $48,250. So that's good to know, because if you need that 50, you can ask for 53 so that you know you're going to be walking out with enough. We do automatic payments for the loans. There is no prepayment penalty. As long as your loan is 30 days or older, you can pay off the full balance. Don't worry about any additional interest. There's no fees or anything for that. You ask us what the payoff amount is, you make that payment, and you are done with that loan. And that's really good for folks who are doing government contracts. You borrow $35,000 for us to pay your workers, 9 months later, or whenever the government finally pays you, you have enough money to just pay off the loan. Why do you want to be paying that interest? So you just pay it right off. We do twice annual site visits, either virtual or in person. We're going to look at your books. We're going to look at how the business is going, and then we're going to offer you any resources that we have. The number one questions we got is, what kind of businesses can we lend to and what can we use the funds for? We can lend to just about any small business type in Maryland. The only kinds that we can't are the traditional sin industry, adult bookstores, alcohol-only establishments, things like that. And we're not allowed to do anything related to medical marijuana right now. CBD, hemp, things like that, we absolutely can do. It's just, even though it's becoming legal in July in Maryland, we are federally funded, so we're unable to do anything with that. You can use the money for any business related expense. So leased out space, furniture, equipment, paying people, supplies. There are just only 2 caveats to that. Number one, if you are in the business of buying property to either, to fix up and either rent or sell, we can't fund the purchase of the property or the actual rehab of the property. But if you need a truck, a jackhammer, a build out of your own office, we absolutely can do that. And the other thing is that if you are a home-based business, these funds cannot be used to pay your rent or mortgage or utilities at your house. The other loan we have is a credit builder loan. Everything just about is exactly the same, except for it's a much smaller loan. This is for folks who either have poor credit or no credit. Folks who are looking to dip their toe in the small business world without taking a huge risk, or existing businesses that have a small issue that needs to be fixed quickly. A tree growing through a pipe. These are quicker turnarounds, so you can just apply and get the money quickly and fix that. They go $500 to $5,000, although honestly, with the cost, I wouldn't recommend a loan less than about $2,000 because the fees just get to be too much at that point in time. These loans, every single one of them does go out at 9%. They generally are the 2-year term. There is no collateral required at all for this loan, but if you have it, of course, it's encouraged. If you don't have it, we'll take what is called a UCC on the business, and basically the business assets become the collateral. Everything else is the same except for the application fee is only $50 plus the credit report, and then no matter what's going on with your closing, it's only a $75 closing cost that's deducted from the loan. So if you apply for $5,000 and you get it, you're walking out with $49.75 or $49.25. Everything else is the same with that. You absolutely can have one loan, and if you're paying off on it well, apply for another loan through us. So you're not restricted to just one loan at a time with us. So eligibility criteria, I know we're getting close to the end of the time. We want to see that you've got a business plan. We want to see that you either have experience in the field or that you have a mentor to help you. Again, we want to see your cash flow, your collateral, your credit. Again, not necessarily the score, but what you've been doing in the last 12 months to 2 years. There are 2 disqualifiers, however. If you've had a bankruptcy discharged in the last 24 months, or if you have a tax debt without a payment plan, you would need to set that up before you could get a loan. Of course, we want to see those general economic conditions. My example about the pizza store is, we want to make sure that there's room for you in the market. And of course, can you re-enter the job market if your business is not successful? So the documents for applying for a loan are going to be similar for all lenders, but there will be differences. This is our process. So we require that you do an online intake form, an online business loan application, and an online personal information supplement, which is a simplified personal financial statement. In those, there'll be opportunities to upload these other documents, the business plan and the cash flows. If your business has been in existence, we're going to want to see these profit and losses, quarterly balance sheets, and business tax returns. If you're a startup, of course, you're not going to have that, and that's okay. We do need to see personal taxes for all of the owners, and the bank statements, at least personal for the owners, and then corporate if it exists. Again, proof that the loan was turned down by another lender. That's what's required. But anything else that you can add to help tell your story, go ahead and do it. If you've got reference letters, licenses, leases, LOIs, contracts, anything like that, we want to see it. The good example that I like to give is if you have a chair at a salon and you're going to be opening up your own salon, and you come to us with 30 letters from clients saying that they're going to move over to your store, you got a good chance of getting a yes. You can also send us links to advertisements, websites, TikTok, YouTube, all of that kind of stuff. So we accept applications through the first Friday of the month to get a decision that month. If once everything is in, you'll find out on the 4th week of the month. If it's a yes, we issue a commitment letter, and generally we're closing in 2 to 4 weeks. There are, as I've said, 1 million resources available to you that are all free. So, take a look at this slide, talk to your libraries, talk to your municipalities, talk to your counties, talk to the state, get involved in the SBA, find out which universities near you have small business programs, and get involved in your local business organizations. The next slide, we're running out of time, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but the 5 things that you want to remember when you're applying for capital is keep that day job so you can pay it back. Realize that you need an accountant, even if you are an accountant. Ask for help. Again, you're in the place with the most free help that there is, so take advantage of every bit of it. keep your money in the bank. When you're applying for a business loan, it is not the time to go buy a house or a car, and be part of your community. Give to local charities, join your Chamber of Commerce, your Rotary, your Main Street organization, be out there, help other businesses, do cross promotions. Once people go to small businesses because of the experience. So you want to make sure that you're part of that experience. The last slide here is going to have a couple of great upcoming webinars. Basic Business Finance Part 2 is tomorrow. I cannot recommend that enough. It's with Lindsay Peel. She has worked in retail and commercial banking. She has her own consulting firm now and does an amazing job. We've got the SBA Women's History Month event on March 2nd. And then you'll see a few other ones on there. Again, this will be emailed to you, but you can also go to marylandcapital.org and find a full list. And these are all free, and you can just register right there on the website. That one always goes back, so I don't know why. So I'm going to open this up for questions. I've got my contact information here, and I see one that was in the chat section. I am reading that right now. Okay, so people are asking, so this is about applying for grants, about people asking for a fee for grants. I have never heard of a fee to apply for a grant. I would recommend reach out to me directly, and let's talk about what's going on there. Sometimes a municipality might have like a $25 application fee or something like that, but if it's paying a grant writer or something like that, but I'd like to talk offline about that. With that, are there any other questions?
No question.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go.
Oh, okay. Thank you. So I am, of course, starting up the children's bookstore, like I said in the beginning. So with retail, obviously that's kind of hard to estimate how much you're going to be making. So how do I go, how would I go about starting off my cash flow statements?
Sure. So what I would advise is if you know other people who own bookstores, talk to them and see sort of how they started off. If not, do some internet research, and then take advantage of sort of our ability to help you with the cash flows, because we can sort of, even though we don't know the industry, we can look at different retail spots in different locations and get an idea of what you can expect coming in a month.
Okay.
Alrighty, I didn't see who else was the next person.
I just wanted to say thank you. You've answered a lot of my questions. You've given me some more questions, and you've offered the help that I need, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. Honestly, this is my favorite part of the job. It gives me energy. So, this is, I love this. So I really appreciate the comments.
I'll be contacting you for some one-on-one to come in and sit down with you to make sure, to get my tax stuff and all of the questions that I have answered. I'm not going to ask the questions right now because I think it will require us to have some time to sit down.
Awesome. That's one of the main goals for reason why we do this. I hope that every single person on this takes advantage of that. We got a decent sized team. We can help everybody. So any other questions?
I want to say thank you as well. And now, do you have a phone number? Because I do see that you have your email, but do you have a direct number?
Yes, I do. So this is my cell phone. So you can also text. It's 410. It's going to sound fake. 900-5715.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah. And I'll go ahead and put that in the chat as well if I can. Hold on, I'll pull this off, and so that way everybody can just cut and paste it. And there you go. Just make sure that you let me know who you are if you're texting. Are there any other questions?
To sign up for the one-on-one that you're speaking about, is that located right on the website?
Yep. If you go to marylandcapital.org, you'll see a client intake form. I believe right now it's sort of in the upper right-hand corner.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Where exactly are you all located?
Sure. So we are working virtually right now in the Baltimore office. We do have a space on Harford Road near Cold Spring in the Cube that if we need to do in-person meetings, we can do that there. We can
Right
also
down
come
the street.
Yeah, awesome. We could also come to you as well. So we're not normally in the Cube, but if we're scheduled for a meeting, then we can go in
Right.
there. We also have an office in Salisbury that covers the Eastern Shore. And that's really our main office.
Oh, okay. So now you are located at Morgan State University. Is one at campus or somewhere near there?
We partner with Morgan State, but we're not affiliated. You know, we're not on their campus, and we're not a program of theirs.
Okay, so you said Hartford Road and which street? I'm sorry.
Cold Spring. So it's in the Cube workspace. It's just north of the McDonald's.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm right at Hartford and Northern Parkway.
Oh yeah. So just a mile south.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Any other questions?
So thank you very much. For sticking to your time. And I mean, this has been very comprehensive and very, I appreciate that it is not over people's heads because you never know who's listening or who needs you. Everything is just, this was really worthwhile and I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I really appreciate the feedback. What I will do is I'm going to offer to stay on for questions as long as folks need, but I want to wrap up and let people go because I don't want to take too much of your time. So the last thing I'll say is, please, when you get the email and you get the evaluation form, please fill that out. That helps us get our funding. So that would be great. And so I'll stop the recording and say, have a nice day, but I'll stay on as long as folks like me to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm going to
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to be leaving, but thank you very much.